Welcome to another edition of Douglas on My Mind show. And as I state each and every time, we have special guests. Everybody's special on our show today, I'm telling you. But we got a special program today. You're going to hear from our auditors, our external auditors with Hurst & Hurst Company. They are our external auditors. They've been doing it now for a period of time, so we're going to hear from them after these messages. We're back with more Douglas on My Mind, and as I stated before the break, we have with us today our auditors from Hurst & Hurst Company and LLC, am I correct?
Hurst & Hurst CPAs LLC.
LLC, yep. Okay. All right, we have Rob Hurst, who is the actually the president, or actually not the founder. I think your father was the founder, am I correct?
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, I got it right. And we have Parker Bowler. He's also with Hurst & Hurst. He's one of the accountants there. Appreciate y'all being on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I told them before the break, obviously this just like we're having a conversation. Auditors are bean counters, or shall we say, they don't often get seen. They're in the back somewhere in the background, running numbers, looking at figures, things of that nature. So this is a great opportunity for them to kind of share what they do in regards to not only the city, but also I think they do some auditing for some other nonprofit and local government agencies here in this area as well. So thank y'all for being here. And I asked the first question, which really kind of gives everybody a perspective of your firm and how long it's been around, and kind of give us the history, and then maybe talk about some of your staff and what all other things you do, because I know you do local government auditing, but you do some other things as well. So get a kind of broad perspective of what you do.
Okay, thank you. My dad and uncle started Hurst & Hurst CPAs in Waycross, Georgia.
That's right. I forgot about that.
49 years ago, 1966.
Right. Yeah. Now your uncle's name was
Henry Hurst.
Henry.
Yeah.
Now see, I'm gonna date myself. I recall Mr. Henry Hurst because of their being what were their location? I'm trying to remember now.
Right there between the bridges going through.
Bridges. That's right. That's right. Yeah, small world. That's right. Mm-hmm.
So they started that office in '66. Mm-hmm. Saw the opportunity in Douglas. Douglas was growing, so they moved and opened an office over here. Okay. 2 years later, my dad moved to Douglas to run this office, and Uncle Henry stayed in Waycross and ran the Waycross office. That's how we ended up in Douglas. Almost 50 years ago. Next year will be 50th anniversary.
Wow, y'all going to have some type of celebration?
We're going to have to plan some kind of big shindig.
Okay.
So,
well, definitely that'll be a great opportunity to expose the community about what y'all do, and hopefully beyond just the Douglas on My Mind show, get some good insight for the folks. Yeah. I'm gonna bend down and get my paper, because I'm definitely lost without my question, definitely in that regard. So, and I was telling them also too before the break, I'll go off the reservation. So I'm gonna go off a little bit of reservations now. I recall Hurst & Hurst and Waycross, because actually they were, believe it or not, they were the auditors of Waycross, where I was assistant city manager for a period of time, and they did a great job. I remember Deborah Yance used to work, I think, did she work for?
No, she was with one of the other firms in Waycross. Yeah, there was another firm in Waycross that came in behind us.
That's right.
And she was with them.
That's right. Hurst & Hurst was there when I first got to Waycross, and then Deborah Yance and that firm started to do the audit.
That's right.
So definitely you got a long history of the accounting aspect, and talk a little bit about your staff and what other things that y'all do as well.
Okay. We're a normal accounting firm, except for having this governmental audit division. Most of the time, most in the year, all the other staff are working on supporting small businesses, doing payroll checks, monthly accounting and bookkeeping, normal, doing the tax work, like you think a normal accounting firm would do. Then, due to the fact that we got into this governmental audit work in the 60s, we've always had a really strong presence doing government audit work. Parker Borland is a CPA now, and he's taken over running that division for us. So he's the head man on running all the governmental audit division and not-for-profits. So that's his full-time job. Is even during tax season, he's working on doing government audit work.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. That's
Appreciate it.
All right, milestone achievement on that. Great.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
All right.
Yeah, we were very lucky to get a local boy back to do that. It's always good when you can hire local people and have something for them to come back to. And it was here for me to do that, and it's really good for us to find other professionals that'll move back to the area.
Good. Well, obviously, doing local audits, local government audits, and that ranges from cities, I guess, counties, and some other aspect. What is the full portfolio of what y'all do as far as those?
Basically, anybody that needs an audit done, we can do it.
Okay.
The not-for-profit division, we do cities, counties, chamber of commerces, industrial authorities, all of your not-for-profit, all the way across the board.
Good.
So that's, it's a really, really broad spectrum of people that we end up doing audits for.
And so now, since you're coming up on your 50th, I guess that's what you're saying, 50th, so that's how long y'all been doing them? Total are.
Yeah, the first audit we started was in 1968, which was Coffee County.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And I don't know the circumstances back then. Dad was appointed by the foreman of the grand jury to take over the audits for Coffee County as the external auditor. And that's how we got into the government audit business, and we've been in it ever since.
Wow, that's pretty great. Now, obviously, some people don't know what the role of an external auditor is, and I know y'all say, well, it's kind of boring what we do.
Yeah.
But to me, it has so much value and benefit because doing what local governments, nonprofits do each and every day, there always has to be some accountability, some oversight. Obviously, I think when people hear auditor, they most times float over to IRS, Internal Revenue Service. But obviously, auditor sometimes has had a negative connotation behind it. But it's not so much to my aspect of being so much trying to play gotcha. It's more hopefully helping folks have more transparency, accountability, and trying to find out where there's some challenges at, so we can hopefully get those shored up. So, talk a little bit about the technical role of an auditor. So,
I think you're right. People think of us as an IRS tax auditor because that's the negative connotation that people are scared to death. Yeah. I'm scared to death of IRS tax auditors. So I understand that. Yeah. That's not really our job as auditors of not-for-profits and governments. Our job is really to provide accountability to the citizens that the money's being handled the right way, things are being run properly. Without trying to make it very boring, I mean, the government, tons and tons of dollars go through these governments. You've got sales tax money coming in, all other kinds of revenues coming in. Money being spent out on multiple things. Our job as the auditor is to be able to report back to the governing body, the city commissioners in this case, and then the citizens, that those things are being handled properly. The difference between us and having somebody internally do it within the employment of the city is we're completely independent. So I'm not beholden to the mayor. I'm not beholden to you or any managers, anybody else. Right. My job as independent is to basically to call it like I see it and report back. So that gives us great latitude in the things we look at. The structure, we can go in any direction we want to, and that's our job as auditor.
Right. And let me say this for the sake of discussion, because I think a lot of times citizens believe that the auditor may be an extension of the government or nonprofit. That's not the case. I can recall when I was finance director back in Waycross, I had some disagreements with an auditor, how they would look at booking some information or liabilities or things of that nature. But that's what it's all about, so that hopefully there is some level of transparency, accountability, determination of how things need to be done and not need to be done in regards to that. And it's good to have somebody to give you an objective perspective of that, because we can get tunnel vision of what we think should happen, and sometimes that tunnel vision may get you going down a road that less travel, and then we in trouble. So I would prefer to know versus not to know. So I think that's the value of it all. So that's been good.
Yeah, and a lot of times the employees get caught up in the day-to-day operations of what they're doing. We follow a set of governmental accounting standards that applies to every single government, and we have to take those standards and set them on top of what the city's actually doing, and make sure the city's reporting within that framework, so that if you pull the City of Douglas's financials and the City of Waycross's financials, they've both been reported under the same framework.
Right.
So that's part of what we do, is make sure those reporting criteria are being met.
And we affectionately call that the GASB,
Yeah.
as far as that, but that's the Governmental Accounting Standards Board.
Yes, that's right.
And I used to hear it in my sleep, so I'm just definitely, don't have nothing against the word, but it's just something I've had to live with all my life, career rather. So, and obviously, laying that over those financials helps us hopefully determine where there's some issues, outliers, some concerns that we hopefully. So what happens once all that kind of comes together? Is there kind of talk through, I guess, how do y'all go about performing the audit, how you start, and that'll probably be the next thing that we need to talk about.
All right. The first, there are really just three phases to doing an audit. To oversimplify it, is we come in and do a planning phase. Then we do field work, which is what people see us doing most of the time when we're up there, and then we file reports back to the interested parties. The planning phase involves us taking the really general, that's the 30,000-foot view of the city's operation. Here's some real, we look at the initial financial statements, trying to plan how we want to do our audit. What areas do we think there's more risk in? Where do we think there's bigger risk of compliance? And we kind of hone down and come up with a plan that says, okay, we want to spend more time looking at splost funds, versus some other type of revenue. We want to look at how this money's being expended, because we think there's maybe some more risk of theft happening there, things not being reported properly, or there's some grant requirements on how things are supposed to be reported. We're not just looking at things trying to say, okay, $20 came in, $20 got spent. There are the strings attached to all this money we get, so many different grants and things. So we have to go through and try to come up with a big plan that says, okay, we've got major grant money coming in. The grant money requires A, B, C, and D. Then we know we've got to spend time during our audit going in and making sure A, B, C, and D were done, because part of our audit report goes back to the federal government also, whoever gave us the grant money.
Exactly.
So it may go back to, in the state, may go to the community affairs. Those people get those reports and look at them. If we have loans outstanding or bonds outstanding to people that have different requirements. So that's the first phase, is going through the plan and saying, okay, here we know we've got to look at these things, spend some time here. The next phase is the fieldwork phase, and that's where we're actually on site. What you would see us sitting in a room with a pile of invoices, going through and looking at invoices and making sure they've been approved and the money's been spent like it was supposed to have been spent. That's what people normally think of when they think of us being in there auditing.
Right.
That's where we're basically building our case that things have been done properly. And then the final phase is the reporting phase, where we go back and file a report that says, here's some issues we found, here's some areas for improvement we think we could do, here's the final financial numbers as we've looked at all of them with all the changes we've made. That's the final phase, and that's where you see us come back before the commission meeting with our big audit report. It's 150 pages worth of numbers, and that's the final presentation, and those are the real numbers. As adjusted by the auditor, that go to all the government reporting agencies, all the bondholders, all the grant people that give us money. That's what they get, is that final package.
Exactly. And that's a valid point, and I will share this thought, and maybe you can respond to this question or concern. I had a citizen, not with the City of Douglas, but she had a question about, in the